blood in your mouth, you better bust it out.
What is going on, everybody? Nasdorachi coming back at you again today with another video for Dragon Ball Legends. Now, this is something that I actually raced to record the other day as soon as all of the data mines started to drop in Discord. We got tons of information about all of the new characters you see around me, and I went to look at it, and the kits and a lot of the information about the characters was not fully fleshed out. But now, thanks to both Game Press and Legend Space, Renzi and Emmanuel and all those fine folks at both of those data mining websites and services, we now have a good majority of the information about all 5 of the brand new Sparkings, and we can also briefly look at what the 3 or 4 new EX units and the 3 new heroes, all coming to the game on the main anniversary banner format, which I believe will start either like Sunday morning into Sunday evening or Monday morning. It really depends, but that's what it is looking like so far, and of course it depends on what time zone you live in. But we are, of course, getting Legends Limited, Vegito Blue, a Super Saiyan 4 Goku, and Shenron on the GT side. Of course, pretty much everybody knows this because a lot of the characters are somewhat playable, or you can play against them in the various events that we've had added for the pre-anniversary lead-ups content. And then, of course, you have the Trunks and the Fusion Zamasu for the Super side of the game. Now, there's a lot of things that are going to be affected by the dropping of these characters. Not only the GT team and regeneration, thanks to the Super Saiyan 4 Goku and the Shenron. Of course, like Son family and Saiyans in general might also get a little bit of a buff, but we're also looking at a heavy buff to the future tag. Vegeta family also getting some defense that it desperately needs. And of course, Future, if I haven't already mentioned that. And Fusions. Maybe I already mentioned Future, but didn't mention Fusions. But, of course, we're going to go over all the characters. So the first thing we shall bring up here will be just Discord for one brief second, because I know it's small and there's not a lot of new information on here, but this is what dropped the other day. We got a lot of the information. Again, I'm pretty sure that most of you are aware of this, so not too much else brand new. We've had a lot of these events already showing up in game with the titles for the Trunks and Super Saiyan 4 Goku event versus Zamasu and Shenron. We know that we are about to receive a reset tomorrow. We'll be looking at this update 2 days until the anniversary event, and then of course the 1 day until the anniversary event. So again, not too much new stuff here. So I have a lot of the character arts, which I'm just flying through because we'll be able to check those out soon enough when the characters actually drop. And that's about all we needed from Discord. Again, I kind of recorded a lot of that the other day and then scrapped that video because we did not know more. So going over to Twitter here, we have Game Press. Thanks to the work of Dork and Matsriel, we've been able to data mine and translate most of the toolkits of the second anniversary units, and he's loading them up right now. So we are going to check out both Game Press and cross-reference it with Legend Space here, since these are the 2 most reputable and the best online sources for information, at least resources and stuff about Legends. So we'll check them both out briefly, because I think we have more translation and less code going on Game Press. You'll see what I mean by that in a little bit. So, starting with Super Saiyan Blue Legends Limited Vegito. He is, of course, blue in color, as well as being Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan. Main ability will randomly destroy one of his own cards, will draw the Ultimate Arts card next, restores his own health by 20% and ki by 50%. Something we've seen quite a bit of. The ki restore with the Ultimate Arts nowadays kind of guarantees the ability to keep comboing and then use the Ultimate as well. 40% to damage inflicted for 20 counts. His first unique passive will be applies the following effects to self when this character enters the battlefield. 50% to damage inflicted, which cannot be stacked. There's no time limit listed here, so that may just be a permanent buff. And remember, if you lead with this character, as in the first character you start battle with, that'll just automatically trigger as the battle starts. Reduces damage received by 30%, so offense and defensive coverage, but that does have a time limit of 15 timer counts. Nullifies all of his attribute downgrades and abnormal conditions, so no stat debuffs, no paralysis, bleed, poison, none of that. Of course, it won't work on faint, because if he's fainted already, then yeah. Well, I guess when he switches in, he won't be able to be fainted for 15 counts. But if, he's already in play, and you know what I'm trying to say. He can be fainted, but it'll be a little bit of a window there to prevent that, which is extremely powerful. And it'll draw a green card next. That's a lot of effects for just entering the battlefield. So his second passive here, 30% to damage inflicted from battle start versus Fusion Warrior. That's going to be extremely helpful, not only because it's meant to deal with Fusion Zamasu, like that's where that comes from, but there's plenty of other relevant fusion units that this will definitely help you counter meta using fusions. I don't know, it's going to be 80% when he swaps in versus other Fusion Warriors to just general damage. Not Striker Blast specifically, but just general damage. That's extremely powerful. Applies the following effects to allies depending on their battle style when this character is switched to standby, which is possibly limited to Fusion Warrior or God Key based abilities. If they're a melee type, they get plus 40% to strike damage, and if they're a range type, they get plus 40% to blast damage, both for 15 counts. Support type increases arts card draw speed by 1 level for 15 counts, and defense type gains minus 30% to sustained damage cut effects. So he's not only hyper offensive, but also a support unit. Applies the following effects to self when faced with enemy depending on their battle style. Oh my god. Applies those. If they're a melee type, he gets plus 40% to his strike damage. If they're a range type, he gets plus 40% to their blast damage, to his blast damage. If they're a support type, he gets card draw speed, Vegito. And if they're a defense type, he gets minus 30% to enemy sustained damage cut effects. That's wild. So he's going to have plus the 80% boosted damage versus Fusion Warrior specifically, or just 50%. Then plus 40% to either one of these specific damage types. He's going to have damage buffing out the booty hole. His strike cards have blast damage armor. They restore his own ki by 5 when they connect. Inflict enemy with a tribute downgrade minus 100% to health restoration for 3 counts. And he draws a strike arts card next. Activates once after using a strike arts card. What wild nonsense is this? This man is so powerful. Extra move? What is this? There's special move, ultimate move. This must be the green card. Cancels enemy attribute upgrades on hit. Activates 2 times. Inflicts enemy with attribute downgrade plus 25% to damage received for 15 timer counts. And it's most likely a combo starter. So yeah, that's the green card right there. Cancels all enemy buffs and you can do it twice. Is very, very strong. Blue card inflicts enemies with no switching for 3 timer counts on activation. This is essentially going to be identical to Super Saiyan 4 Goku's blue card. As well, inflicts enemy with a tribute downgrade plus 15% to damage received for 15 counts on hit. 3 of which they will be guaranteed to not be able to swap out of. Ultimate Arts, plus 50% to damage inflicted for 3 counts upon activation. It'll just buff the ultimate move itself. Gain a tribute upgrade minus 100% to any cover cut mechanics for 3 counts. Nullifies endurance, very similar to the regular Super Vegito. And nullifies enemies' special cover change effects, which right now will mostly affect Bojack. Bojack will not be able to swap in front of this and cancel the ultimate arts like he can do for every other player in the game, every other character. So that's pretty wildly strong. But it is limited only to his ultimate move, so you'll still be able to cover cut in front of most of the rest of his attacks. Not the blue card either, though. No blue card swapping and no ultimate swapping of significance, so that is extremely powerful. Moving forward, we are at the Yellow Rage Trunks. Main ability will draw ultimate move, which will remove opponents' buffs on activation and destroys all of his other cards in his hand on hit. That's semi-confusing when it says on hit because we're talking about a main ability. Is that when the ultimate move hits, or is that just it'll destroy his hand when you use it like the purple transforming Trunks? Also, he'll get plus 35% damage reduction for 20 counts and plus 60% damage inflicted for 15 counts, which is extremely good for a defense type unit. Not only will he be able to take hits, but he'll be able to dish out some punishment as well. And that means that every single character for this anniversary has an Ultimate Arts technique. All 5 of these Sparkings have them. Very, very interesting. And I'm not complaining really at all. So his first passive will be cover, 30% damage reduction. So when he swaps in, he'll have a 30% to his cover cut, basically. Combo reset, most likely sub count reduction when enemy uses RR. Yeah, they tease this in the actual video that if he's not in play and he's been recently swapped out and the enemy triggers a Rising Rush, that his timers will be reduced and you'll most likely be able to immediately swap him back in. And he gets 20% to damage reduction for 20 counts on swap in. So if he's cover assisting, he gets 30, but for switching in under any normal circumstance, he gets 20. So realistically, his cover cut defense is actually 50% damage reduced, which is extremely strong as well. Something I don't know if we've seen very often, except for like the old green Android 16, maybe? There might be 1 or 2 other characters that get 50% damage reduced on swap in. Like, I think the Sin Shenron does as well, just via his other passive, but yeah. Moving forward, 20% to damage inflicted to God Key and Regeneration. We also knew this as well from the preview, from the reveals and stuff video. They said that he'd be anti both of those tags. Unique ability 2. When this fighter or ally takes damage from Strike, Blast, or Special, so basically anything but taps or ultimates or rising rushes, they will get 10% to damage inflicted, which cannot be canceled and is stackable up to ×6. That's going to be up 60% more damage. That's 120% damage if you combine that efficiently with his main ability. Plus 10% to damage inflicted for this character and future or hybrid Saiyan allies for 25 timer counts. Draw a green card next. So no matter whether he's in the field or not, he's going to be supporting not only himself, but your current character that's being used. At least if they are future or hybrids. But I don't know about Vegito family. We'll have to check on that once we can see it in a little bit clearer detail. Green card, plus 15% to damage inflicted for 15 counts. Removes all attribute downgrades on himself, and a 15% heal. That's actually a nice combination of effects. Some of the numbers might be a little bit low, but again, when he's already got 120% damage and whatnot from 60% here and other buffs, main ability, looking at, yeah, that's going to add just that much more, which he's going to have a lot of buffs. He's going to be doing a lot of damage as a defensive unit. Under the right circumstances. His blue card will just add 2 timer count to the enemy substitution count for 20 timer counts on hit. That's interesting wording there, but basically plus 2 to their ability to swap out their timers. Trunks, I think, is going to be exceptionally useful for his tags and for the teams that are going to make good use of him. We'll have to play test him a little bit better than against the level 2000 AI in that event, but I think he's going to be extremely competitive. Next up, we have Merged Zamasu Purple. Recovers 20% of his health. This is his main ability. He will draw an ultimate move as well. Recovers 40 ki and 100% penetrate damage cut for 15 counts. So basically no cover cutting is going to really affect his damage period for 15 counts. That's actually quite useful. 20% heal is also good. The 40 ki, just like Vegito, just a 10 ki less. And ultimate is a good main ability right here. Again, all of these characters are seemingly pretty powerful. Again, we're going to hop over to Legend Space after we're done here to get a little bit more supplementary information. Unique ability 1 is first passive. After 15 counts, he's got an uncancelable 40% to damage inflicted. I don't know, there's like a little bit of a typo going on here, but yeah, that makes sense. After 30 counts, he gets uncancelable +1 to card draw speed. And after 50 counts of battle elapsing, -5 to all of his arts card costs. 30% to blast damage if you do or do not, unclear, have a Zamasu or Goku black character as an ally. Well, that would probably be do. Like if you would be teaming him with Zamasu or the Zenkai Goku black, for example, or Rosé, then you'd probably be looking at an additional damage buff there. Second passive, when the enemy combo ends, he recovers health per second for 30 counts. It's kind of like Perfect Cells, and the red Janemba is just constant health regeneration. 20% to damage inflicted as well, which cannot be canceled and stacks up to 4 times. So after he takes 4 hits, it's kind of like the purple Goku Black. Like, the more hits he takes, the stronger he gets. But hopefully this character will actually have the defensive ability or the healing to actually make good use of it and not die before he's fully buffed. But that's 80% damage there, with the additional 30% to blast damage if you're teaming properly, and no damage buffs on main ability to stack with that, but he will have the penetrate damage cut. Very, very interesting. Permanent buffs that cannot be canceled. 40% to damage reduction on cover, nullify combo if it's a strike card. So he will, again, have damage cut if you mistakenly swap in front of yellow cards, ultimates, or rising red. Not necessarily mistakenly, but like if you're trying to predict him and swap in front of the red to cancel a combo, and you mistake it, he'll have 40% damage reduction on that. So that's quite helpful. Green card on activation, 3 of the following effects will occur. Regain 40 ki, 20% to blast damage for 20 counts, grants immunity to debuffs for 20 counts, reduce enemy ki by 40. So it'll pick randomly of the 4 effects, 3 of them to put into play. That's a little bit unpredictable, which makes it hard to make a play around it, but 3 out of the 4 effects, regardless, is still going to be extremely effective. So kind of like a grab bag, if you will, but it'll all be good stuff you're going to get. Blue card inflicts enemy with plus 20 ki cost to their red cards for 20 seconds. That's actually really strong. It's going to hurt their ability to combo for a significant amount of time, but the enemy may be able to swap out of it, so keep that in mind. Ultimate arts, damage varies depending upon the number of allies left alive. If you have 3 allies left, it's going to be plus 30% to ultimate damage, 2 plus 50%, and if he's the anchor, the last character left alive, he'll have 70% to ultimate damage, which is pretty powerful, and it doesn't seem like much of the rest of his kit kind of forces him to be a last man standing. However, he does benefit from the battle dragging on longer than 50 timer counts at the minimum. Next up, we have Goku. I do think the Zamasu is going to be good. Perhaps his biggest downfall is that he's like pretty much blast oriented, and lots of characters that are effective now have strike that goes through blast with blast armor, and as well, blast can be beaten by tackles with good timing. So I don't know, blast meta is a little bit down and out right now, but still I'm hoping that he's going to be really effective and good to use. Something that Game Press did not say here is the specifics of what his red cards do. Like, I believe they have slash damage or slice damage on them at all times. So we'll check that out when we run over to Legend Space. Again, there's a little bit more we have on each character. But jumping over to the green Super Saiyan 4 Goku, the new one, the full power one. Main ability, plus 20% to damage inflicted, draws an ultimate, 30% to blast damage, so overall I guess I'll have 50% roughly to his blast damage buff. They kind of stack they don't raw stack up to 50% because they both come into play separately, but it's an interesting combination there. He's definitely blast oriented as well, like the Fusion Zamasu. And he also gets +1 card draw speed for 15 counts on his main. Also, pretty good main. Again, all of them seem fairly stacked. So something important to note about that is he does not get ki back using his main ability, just like the yellow Rage Trunks. So with both of them, you're going to have to plan that into your combo ahead of time because the main ability is not going to give you that free usage of the ultimate arts. So his first passive here is going to be on switch if another Saiyan is on the team, which will most likely almost always be the case. He'll get 50 ki back and a 45% damage cut for 10 counts. That's pretty potent. Again, you'll pretty much always be running him with like Super Saiyan 4s or some Saiyan character because he's got generic Saiyan buffs. So it'll be very easy to make good use of that. And it kind of makes up a lot for his main ability, not restoring any ki. Every time he uses a blast card, he gets a 25% to damage inflicted for 15 counts and -4 to his next blast card used for the next 10 counts. It sounds like it's going to be quite easy to buff his damage up and combo out very quickly. So I think he's going to be pretty effective. We'll have to, again, play test him when he actually comes out. But second passive here, when he switches in, he gets 15% to damage inflicted for 15 counts. He draws 1 blast card. He gets 20% to blast damage for 20 counts. And unclear fourth passive. Arts special, he probably draws a green card, is what I'm thinking. But it says ailment rank arts special. Special arts is green cards. Not sure. So his green card here, which I do believe is a comboable green card, applies a debuff of 20% to impact damage received for 30 timer counts and recovers 30 ki, which when you combine that with his swap ins here with 50 ki, he's actually going to have a lot of tools to help him restore ki without charging up. His blue card, plus 20% to damage inflicted for 10 counts, and destroys all the blast cards in his own hand to give following effects based on the number of cards destroyed. I believe it's like 30%, 50%, 70% to his blue card damage. So basically he's like the old sparking green Goten, who will destroy cards in his hand to buff the damage of his blue card. Also, I believe that's like the Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan Anniversary Blue Vegeta from last year's ultimate move. It does the same thing, basically. His ultimate restores his own health by 40% on hit, okay? Well, hopefully it does lots of damage also, because that's the only effect on there. There's no damage buffs or anything else like that, but he can kind of make up for that elsewhere. So they only cover the 5 new sparkings here. Took us a good bit of time to do that, so I don't want to spend too much more time, but we want to run through and just see if there's anything else we missed on the characters, just going through Legend Space here. So of course we have their stats with 2.2 million health, strike attack 228k, and blast attack 216 with 141 on both defenses. For a non-transforming, but still Legends limited units, this is still pretty competitive. And all the buffs that he has going on are going to more than make these numbers go up much higher. Now, we covered most of this, but you can see it's still kind of in code on Legend Space. For his main ability, like parameters 40%, counts 20, inflicted damage up, restores his health 20%. Card change, ultimate, that's drawing the ultimate arts. So we don't really have to go over that too much more, but it is good to see that most of this is accurate with what we just saw on Game Press as well. I'm sure they're kind of cooperating with each other to try and get this information out to all of us. So be sure to appreciate them as much as humanly possible if you're a player of this game. At least one that takes the game this seriously. They are both pillars of the community. Very, very quality sets of people. Next up, we have the red card that has blast damage. We saw that for Vegito on Game Press, but we haven't seen this for most of the other characters. No switching, sustained damage up, okay. Something else I don't think we saw in Game Press, at least for every character, is the effects of not only their Z abilities, but some of these individual cards here. Like we have strike damage up on red cards, strike cards with plus 20% to strike damage inflicted for 2 timer counts when used. And then arts cards, sustained strike damage up, parameter 20%, counts 15. So he has a card that'll buff his red card for at least that red card and maybe the second one if you chain them. And then another one that will debuff the enemy. And then his Z ability here, 17% to Fusion Warrior, strike, attack, and defense. Will upgrade to include God Ki, strike, attack, and defense. And then we'll upgrade to include future strike, attack, and defense as well. So he has a double stat buff for up to 3 different tags. Future, fusions, and God Ki. It's very, very powerful indeed. And that's pretty much all we needed to look at for Vegito to cross-reference with Game Press. Again, pretty much everything else was accurate. We have Zamasu here, coming in at 205k strike attack and 223 blast, which is very comparable to the Vegito, but remember he is blast focused. A little bit higher strike defense and pretty much the same blast defense and health. We're not going to go through all the abilities again. I'm going to trust that Game Press had those accurate. But again, something we didn't have there would be like the slice damage on his strike cards right here. That is going to be useful because he is blast based. This will hopefully help compensate for his strike stat being a little bit lower, since it will ignore a certain percentage of the enemy's defense. Again, pretty much everything else seems accurate. He brings 2 yellow cards, which again is a little painful for balancing out your card pool when you're, I guess, deck building your team before battle, but hopefully we'll be able to get through it without too many serious issues. Z ability buffing future, blast attack, it upgrades to include God Ki, and then at 6 stars, he'll have blast attack and blast defense for God Ki, as well as 15% blast damage to the tag powerful opponent, which is that new tag that they just kind of like forcibly shoved in the game. So God Ki and Future buffer, and a kind of a little bit offhanded powerful opponent buffer. It's very interesting. It's actually really good Z ability on this guy also. He also tags on Regeneration as well as Fusion Future. So pretty much to be expected. I guess Regeneration was the only thing that I wasn't sure about because of his fusion with the, you know, mortal and non-mortal Zamasus together. I don't know if that would take that tag away, but clearly it has not. So let us proceed. Super Saiyan 4 Goku next. Checking out stats briefly. Level 5,000. He's got higher defenses than both Legends Limited Vegito and the Zamasu, but lower attack stats by a little bit. Blast attack 219k, strike attack 209k, 2.1 million health. Now just to very quickly cross-reference this with the older Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, or with the older Super Saiyan 4 Goku, sorry. We'll bring him up and check out his stats. The same amount of stars, level 5,000. So he's got 215k strike attack and only 190k blast. So comparing his most relevant stat, it's about 4,000 less than the stat right here. So this guy is, I would say, very marginally power crept in terms of his stats, especially his off damage type being significantly higher and his defenses both being significantly higher as well. So new Goku is actually probably not as bad as some people might be suggesting. You know, even though he's strike versus blast, I think this character is going to be considerably useful as well. And then the GT team is very close to being fully there. I mean, maybe like Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, another Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta unit maybe. I'm sure we're going to get a Legends Limited Super Saiyan 4 Goku with like a Dragon Fist attack at some point. So GT is still going to have a lot more love incoming, but they're pretty much there now at this point. Don't have to go over the abilities so much. Cards as well seem identical, and everything else seems pretty standard. And he brings 2 yellow cards as well, just like the Zamasu. He starts off buffing the blast attack of GT. That upgrades to include the blast attack of Saiyans as well at 6 stars. But it's only a blast attack buff. It's kind of like the Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku, who buffs just strike attack for God Ki or Saiyans at 6 stars. Kind of similar to that. Just a single stat buffer, fairly high number, and 2 tags once you get to 6 stars. Alright, that's about all we need to check out with the Goku there. We'll run through Omega Shenron, then Trunks. Then we will briefly look at the EX units and the hero units. I know this is a little bit of a longer video, but there's a lot of new units to cover here. Definitely big numbers for this anniversary. Shenron, being on regeneration, is going to make him extremely relevant across not only GT, possibly Fusions and Shadow Dragon's powerful opponents, but regeneration is a big one right there. His stats, looking at 114k strike attack and 212k blast, not quite as high as the other units, but more balanced. There's a very tight spread between those two, so he'll be able to use reds and yellows pretty much with equal effectiveness. His defense is pretty much in line with Legends Limited Vegito, but his blast defense is about 1,000 higher and 2.2 million health, roughly. Nothing out of the ordinary on his cards themselves, but he brings special cards in battle with a strike that will destroy cards with a single arts card destroying effect, and that applies to both the strike and the blast card that he brings to battle. His Z ability will be strike attack for tag GT, but at 3 stars it'll upgrade to include regeneration, and at 6 stars it'll be strike attack and defense for regeneration up to 30%. So regeneration and GT. He's not going to help out on fusions quite so much. I think the Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks will still be better there, but very, very powerful character incoming. And lastly, for the Sparkings, we want to talk about Trunks here. He is going to be quite useful for hybrids, Future, and Vegeta family, I would assume. He's got less strike attack. It's kind of like the older Super Saiyan 4 Goku here, with 193k comparative to blast attack being 214k. But those numbers are actually, again, not bad for him being a defense type. Those are actually really competent and very competitive for, again, that typing. His defense is fairly high, highest we've seen on the banner, with almost 150k strike defense and 146k blast defense, 2.25 million health. So again, very, very competitive looking character on paper. We already read the abilities, and the blast card isn't shown here for some reason. That's being left out, but he carries red and yellow, and he will buff future 19% to blast defense. Upgrades to include Vegeta family at 3 stars, and at 6 stars it'll be blast attack and defense for Vegeta family and future. So no love for hybrids, but you could still build him on like a hybrids team that's like all trunks, I suppose, for like anti-regeneration and stuff like that. Do you believe he did have, yeah, most of the trunks, like the red one and now this one, both have anti-regeneration passives, so. And the EX purple one as well. So something to be considered, but he does look like he's going to be pretty useful for those builds, and his defensive qualities, Vegeta family especially, really needed a defensive unit. Something else that I did want to look at with this Vegito that actually Spider found is that the new Legends Limited Ultimate Art skill that he's going to have for the new Legends Limited Vegito actually has a higher base power than any of the other Ultimate Arts cards in the game. So we go and look at, let's say, any of the other new units that are coming out. They all have Ultimate Arts cards, and you check out their levels. Every single arts card in the game previous to this Vegito had a base power of 355. The new Vegito, you saw it yourself, has a base power that is significantly higher, and that's going to impact, I would assume, the damage of it, and it's hopefully going to be noticeable. 395. So again, 40 ticks higher. I don't know exactly what that equates to in terms of translation, but maybe it'll have a new damage modifier, like, you know, massive, major. Maybe we'll see the next one coming up here soon. So that is something I did want to mention. Let us briefly look at the new EX units and then the new hero units. We'll just run through them real quick. I'm not going to read too much into them. But let's see here. We've got the new Gogeta. He's actually pretty enticing looking. Out of all the EX units, he does look very, very powerful with stats that pretty much rival Sparking stats. 209 strike attack, 141, 142k on the defenses, and 189k blast attack. Again, this is pretty much comparable to the brand new Sparkings that just came out. Now, Game Press didn't have any details on their abilities, but it looks like his passives here, inflict damage up 40%, counts 20. Inflict damage up, blah, blah, blah. It's still mostly coded here, but it looks like he's going to be mostly a damage-focused unit. Oh, he's got some damage cut, too, when he swaps in. Card draw speed up, terminate. Mostly damage-based unit, it seems, though. Alright, green card strike damage up, restore gauge, vanish gauge, 100%. That's interesting. And 50 key. That looks like a really good green card. 20% to damage up, 100% vanish restore, and 50 key. Yeah, this is like Sparking level character here. 25% to strike attack for Fusion Warrior. Well, it's 21, upgrades to 25%, strike attack and defense. So double stat buffer for Fusion Warriors. This EX Gogeta might actually be a very, very good bench. Well, he's not might. He is going to be a very, very good bench unit for strike-based fusion teams, which is what most fusion teams are, strike-based. So, going to be hard to get him because he's an EX unit, but he's going to be extremely good. Probably the best out of the new EX units. We also have the new Trunks here. Melee type, purple, Vegeta family hybrids. Give him 7 stars. 2.06 million health, 215k strike attack, that's Sparking level for sure. Low defense, 129k strike defense, but 200k blast attack as well, and 132k blast defense. His defenses are low, but his offensive numbers, again, are rivaling Sparking characters for sure. Melee type, draw speed down on the end. No, maybe that's going to be, he might be debuffing himself because he's so buff. The older one did the same thing. I'm not going to try and read into this too much because it's mostly coded. Strike damage up, blast damage up, 60% to both, but he's going to have card draw speed down. Inflicted damage up 20 counts, card draw speed up. I guess that'll help negate the other passive. Interesting. His green card, strike damage up 20%. Card draw, destroy card. Brings 2 reds. Strike attack for Vegeta family and strike defense for hybrid Saiyans as well. Interesting. EX character. Still looks pretty relevant though for being a brand new EX. We also have an EX Sin Shenron coming in somewhere here. Where are you at? Here you are. EX Sin Shenron, Shadow Dragon, powerful opponent. He's not regeneration though. It's interesting. Maybe Sin Shenron didn't get the regen tag and it's only Omega. That could be consistent with the Sparking Sin Shenron as well. I don't know because I never pulled him. 2.01 million health, 1.86 strike attack. What is he? He's a support type. Yep, so low stats due to being a support type. 137, 186, 141. But hopefully he will support well. Damage up, sustain damage cut, restore key, match own alive Shadow Dragon. So it looks like he might want to be teamed with other Shadow Dragons, I'm assuming. The second ability, sustain damage cut, card draw speed down, destroy Dragon Ball. So pretty standard supporting stuff so far from what I can pull out of this. Restore health, restore key on green card, blast damage to tag GT, 22% to strike attack as well. So blast attack and strike attack buffer for GT, and 10% to strike attack to Shadow Dragons on top of that. So double attack buffer for GT with an additional buff for other Omega and Sin Shenrons. Very, very interesting. Actually, doesn't seem to be all that bad, especially if you're running like Sin Shenron, EX Sin Shenron, and Omega Shenron. That could be pretty interesting. I do believe there was one more EX unit. Yep, it was Final Flash Vegeta here. We have not looked at him yet. 2.01 million health, 194k strike attack, 132k strike defense, 207 blast attack. This is actually pretty comparable with Sparking's on the attack numbers, but low defenses. He is also a support type for what, Vegeta family Saiyans and Super Saiyans, I would assume. Blast damage up, changes cards from strike to blast, I guess, maybe, or blast to strike, not sure. Inflicted damage up. Damage up, so he is going to be supporting damage, mostly a damage support it seems. Special move damage up, blast damage up, restore key. Oh, he's going to be a blast damage buffer. Blast cards plus 20% to blast damage, and blast damage for Vegeta family, and strike attack. So double attack buffer for Vegeta family, I believe. Blast attack and strike attack Vegeta family. Okay, that's not that bad. The Vegeta family is coming together a little bit. We'll have the new Trunks to round out their defenses some, so I don't think that's all that bad. Maybe not as excited for him as some of the other new characters, but I do believe that something I missed on Omega Shenron is mentioning that he does buff the ultimate damage of all the other characters on your team. Did we actually see that anywhere? I know they mentioned it in the teaser. Yeah, I don't think we really saw that anywhere. Where is... Huh. There was no Omega Shenron on here, so we actually didn't cover him really at all. Let's jump over to him here. I promise to kill you at all costs. Inflicted damage up, parameter 30%. Card change ultimate, restore key. Ability name, inflicted damage up, parameter 30%. Sustained damage cut, 20%. Get Dragon Balls. That would make sense since he is Omega Shenron with all the Dark Dragon Balls in him. Ability name, extra strike arts effect, heavy poison, 20% chance. Extra blast arts effect, heavy poison, heavy poison, heavy poison. There's going to be more to this. I'm sure there's actually like poison, paralysis, and bleed. So we're going to actually have to come back and really revisit Shenron after we know a little bit more. Special move damage up, parameter 30%. Awakened and ultimate damage up. There we go, 30%. So using his blue card will buff ultimates by 30% damage for the whole team for 20 counts. I think Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta's main ability does something similar, but this is going to be much more repeatable, obviously. So, pretty nice. Green card, sustained damage up 20%. Substitution count up. Damage to all enemies. Ultimate damage up 50%. So his ultimate is going to be kind of like Kid Buu, where it hurts everyone on the enemy team, and Golden Frieza. Wow, okay, so Shenron's going to be pretty good, but we're going to have to revisit him when we have more complete information, because there's a lot of stuff missing here, I feel like. We did cover his stats already, though, and unknown tag, melee type. He's going to be really good, but he's the one that, out of everyone, we know the least about. There are also some new hero units. I'm not really going to cover them because, I mean, they're going to be fairly decent. The Hercule is actually the most interesting because his Z ability buffs all Majin Buus in the game. He's going to be the first beginning of like an all Buu meta, which I think is pretty interesting. But the other two here are just 100% hero buffers, like Shallot. Friends of Shallot, you would say. Like at full stars, 100% to strike defense for tagged heroes, and Mercenary Tau, I believe is like blast defense, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, blast defense, 100%. So I don't know how this is going to work, but when you have a full team of heroes that are throwing out a bunch of 100% buffs to each other, and then Shallot, that actually might make for a pretty good team eventually. They might be somewhat competitive. Honestly, I don't know. It's kind of strange to think about, but they have really big buffs on their Z abilities. Where is the Satan? There we go. So Mr. Satan, he's going to have the Z ability here that's buffing Majin Buu, strike attack, and blast attack for Majin Buu. Double offense buffer for Boos. That's super, super interesting. Not too much other information on him, but I think for no other reason that's pretty neat right there. Look at his stat distribution, though. It's so bad. It's so bad. Poor Mr. Satan. Your stats. Oh, God. Alright, well, that's pretty much everything for the new characters. This video was rather long. I do apologize, but we covered pretty much everything that we know about so far for the characters. Huge shout out not only to Dragon Ball Legends Space and Renzi, but also Game Press, Emmanuel, and the folks over here that do the work for Game Press. I think the offers down here, Emma, Matsrael, Dork. So huge shout out to all of these guys doing this work behind the scenes to get us a little bit of information ahead of time, build some hype for the anniversary. If there's anything else you think I forgot or didn't mention, definitely let me know down below. I mentioned in a community post earlier that I'm going to be making a series of shorter videos to cover some more hyper-specific topics. Of course, unfortunately, this wasn't one of them because although we covered all the characters, it was still a lot of information to cover. I do hope you all enjoyed it. Again, give a huge shout out to those people providing the information for us to check out on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you happen to lurk. And if you enjoyed the video, consider leaving it a thumbs up. Help spread it out on YouTube so more people can see it. And if you're new here, consider subscribing so I can see you again on future uploads. There'll be plenty more anniversary content coming, and I hope to see you again very soon. Peace out, y'all, and have a great day.